Welcome and congrats! You have found the MMAC Minute Podcast, where Shar, RN and owner, and Mallory, NP and Medical Director of Montana Medical Aesthetics Clinic, hence the MMAC, take a little dive into the world of aesthetics. Join us as we discuss hot topics and timeless truths. We will be your guides to navigating your own aesthetic journey.
Hey, welcome to Montana Medical Aesthetics Podcast. I'm Shar.
I'm Jamie.
So we're going to talk to you today about Melanoma Awareness Month, and that is May every year. So I'm going to let Jamie kind of go into melanoma and kind of a brief overlay of skin checks and that kind of thing. We'll talk to you about some sunscreen and some preventative stuff, and maybe just touch a little bit on, treatments and that kind of thing. So go ahead.
Okay, so melanoma is the number one deadly skin cancer. There are two others, the basal cell carcinoma and the squamous cell carcinoma, but the melanoma is the sneakiest of the cancers. Okay, as we're exposed to sun, we're risking or increasing our chances of cancer. Our skin is the largest organ of our body, and people tend to forget that.
Yeah,
so
that's true. We need to respect our skin. It's our barrier. It keeps us healthy, and it's a great reflection of our internal health by what our skin looks like. So, yeah.
And it's actually funny that, back in the ancient times or even in the royalty days, everybody of wealth had a parasol, and they actually desired fair skin and not tan skin. So tan
skin was the lower classes and the working class. And
And tan skin wasn't desirable till about the 70s.
I know.
To be honest,
when we all got out there with the baby oil. Yeah.
And even through the 90s,
I never have, but I've never been able to get a tan. But I tried every year.
Yeah.
But I've finally given up.
Even in the 90s, the tanning beds were the big thing, right? Yeah. We didn't realize how bad it is for our skin.
Yeah, I've even read a statistic that even one exposure to a tanning bed increases your risk of melanoma by 75%. It's crazy. It's really, and people, a lot of times, people will come in and they'll say to me, but I mean, it's okay, right? If I just get a base layer with the tanning bed. And I'm just like, I will never tell you it's okay to be in a tanning bed.
Not anymore.
But no, we know too much now,
So melanoma being the sneakiest of the cancers, we want to make sure that we are doing annual moles and skin checks. Okay. When we're checking the moles, we do what is called the ABCD E's when we're examining spots on our body. Okay. Like I said, it's not just for moles, because as we get older, we do kind of attract seborrheic keratosis and other kind of different lesions on our body. So A is looking for the asymmetry. B is the borders. If their borders are well defined, or if they're not, then we definitely need those checked out. C is color. D is the depth, kind of like the height as well. We want to make sure that if it's bleeding, itchy, painful, we kind of want to keep track of those as well. And then I always forget what E is.
I don't know.
I don't ever make it past the D. But
B's borders and E. Hey, we're going to move on and we'll get back to you on that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And E is for evolve, which means any change in shape, color, or characteristic of any mole or atypical lesion. Yeah.
But you don't have to go to a derm every time you see a new mole. What you can do at home is, if you have a spouse, a loved one, a family member that you feel comfortable being naked in, or you can even do it on your children, because they're not, special to not get melanoma. Check everybody's skin, and if you see something new, take a picture of it. You can measure it and kind of keep track of it. Keeping track of your moles on your phone and in your photo library is actually really good, because when you see your primary care provider or dermatologist, you can say, this is what it looked like when it started.
And even hold up a little, like, you know, millimeter or centimeter ruler, you know, to show. Yeah, that's a good idea.
And then this is how I've been tracking it.
All right. So to bring awareness to Melanoma Awareness Month, we have all of our sunscreens on sale this month. And we have a buffet of sunscreens. The most important thing about sunscreen is you find one that you will wear. They don't do any good sitting on the shelf. And I have to tell you, I don't love a lot of them. I'm really sensitive to the way something feels. If it feels too heavy or greasy, I don't like that. I don't like if it smells weird, you know, so I really, you know, struggled to find a sunscreen that I would wear every day. And now I found the one that I love on my face, and I wear it every day. It's a tinted sunscreen. It's a 75 SPF. And that's one thing we kind of want before we go over our variety of sunscreens. We thought we would just kind of talk about what does SPF mean. So sun protection factor is what SPF, and that is a way that the Environmental Working Group established the protective factor of sunscreen. And the truth about SPF is it doesn't matter if it's an SPF of 5 or 105. You don't need 105, but we'll go into that in a minute. Sunscreen protection lasts for 2 hours, and that's it. It doesn't matter what the SPF is. You receive 2 hours of protection from it, and then you must reapply it.
Well, what's the most important ingredient in sunscreen that we should be looking for?
Zinc. Zinc is your most important ingredient. It's your most broad spectrum to protect against UVA and UVB rays. So UVA rays are those that age us. UVB rays are those that burn us or hurt us. So we want a sunscreen that protects against both those. Zinc is the most important ingredient, followed by titanium. Titanium is a second ingredient that is nearly as identical in coverage as zinc is, but zinc is the most important. The problem with a lot of the over-the-counter sunscreens is they don't contain zinc because it's a little bit more costly. They often contain an ingredient called avobenzone. And avobenzone is an ingredient that does protect you against UVA or UVB rays. It protects you against burns and hurting, but it actually degrades the cells, and it makes the sun affect us in an even more powerful way and actually accelerates aging. So with an avobenzone, which is in most of the over-the-counter, less expensive sunscreens, you're not going to burn as far as hurting and getting a sunburn, but you are going to accelerate the aging effects of the sun. So we really encourage people to get a sunscreen that is zinc and titanium based. There's some other ingredients for other purposes that we love to see in sunscreen. Sunscreens can come as a traditional white, and they can also come tinted. And anybody that suffers from melasma, which is kind of a chronic skin condition that is characterized, it's hormonally influenced. We don't know if you can see it, but it's characterized kind of with big patches of brown pigment under the layer of the skin. Kind of
like tentacles from the melanocytes.
Melasma, it always has a twin. Doesn't have to be an identical twin, but if you have melasma on one side of your forehead, you will have it on the other side of the forehead. Characteristic places for melasma are under and around the eyes, the sides of the face, chin, upper lip, forehead. So if you have it around this eye, you will have it around your other eye also. Again, a twin, but not an identical one. We have many options for treatment of melasma. It's kind of a chronic skin, and that's skin disease that's another whole episode on its own. But in regards to sunscreen, kind of a magic that they've determined with sunscreen is tinted sunscreen. A certain percentage of zinc oxide with the iron oxide that provides a tint really effectively helps to manage melasma flares. So that's just another kind of fun thing about sunscreen. Do you need sunscreen if you are inside all day?
Yes.
Why?
Because we have fluorescent lights.
That's right.
Most buildings and offices, hospitals included, have the fluorescent lights.
Overhead and blue screens from screens, sitting in front of computers. All of that might not burn you, but it causes aging. It accelerates aging. It breaks down the integrity of our skin cells. So it offers the same detrimental effect as being out. What about if I have like often I'll hear, well, I have sunscreens in my makeup or sunscreens in my moisturizer. Is that enough?
No, it is not. Depending on what you're doing for the activity of the day, makeup with sunscreen might be okay for office, but if you're outside gardening or you're a sports photographer or an athlete of any sort, especially swimming, it's definitely not enough.
So when I kind of talked about a little bit, you know, the SPF of 105 or 105, and I said we'd get into that a little bit. What SPF do I want to shoot for?
The goal is to shoot for anything that's SPF 30, between 30 and 50. Once again, your daily activities kind of influence what it is that you need to do.
And your sun history, right? And if you have had a diagnosis of melanoma or some atypical skin cells in the past, right? There was a point where the Environmental Working Group was trying to establish a limit on the SPF that could be sold and offered because it was giving people a false sense of security. So it was like, well, I have an SPF of 100, so I can go, you know, for 100 hours. And that's not the way it works. Again, it's just 2 hours. So really, SPF of 30, the most important thing is wear it and reapply it. So then we kind of want to get into anything to add on that?
No.
We talked about avobenzone.
I think is kind of a struggle for most people.
Yeah, it is for me. I mean, in all honesty, it is for me. So avobenzone being the product the ingredient that we want to avoid, zinc and titanium being the ingredients they encourage people to purchase sunscreens. That the problem is they make them a little. Sunscreen's a little costlier.
Is there a certain percentage of zinc that we should be looking for?
9 to 12%. Okay. Yeah, and usually it's around 7% of titanium.
Okay.
Yeah. So anything that's 9 and above, you will have very good coverage from. That was a really good question because sometimes you'll find zinc containing sunscreens over the counter, but if you look at the percentage, it'll be like 1 to 2% because there's very little regulation, if any. And so they're not lying; it contains zinc. It's just not enough. So 9 to 12% zinc is what we're shooting for to give us really good coverage. So like we said, the next thing is just find one you'll like and one that you'll wear. One of the problems that people talk about, especially people who have a little darker pigmented skin, and yes, ethnic people with darker skin still need sunscreen because our ozone is changing, and people with darker skin, that used to be enough that we thought that protected people, but we found that is not true anymore. The rates of melanoma in pigmented ethnic skin are rising dramatically.
And it's harder to detect in them because their skin is already dark.
Right. And so diagnosis is more difficult. And so it's often diagnosed in a more progressed phase or stage and making it more difficult to treat. So we're, and it's kind of, that's the hardest, you know, it's trying to change habits, right? Because really the biggest motivator in wearing sunscreen has always been, I don't want to hurt. I don't want to burn. Burning is what is my motivator, you know, or was for a lot of years. I don't want to burn and hurt. So if you're somebody that doesn't react in that way to the sun, it's a habit you need to establish, and it makes it a little more difficult
because it still damages that deeper tissue there.
Yeah. So I think we're going to talk about some sunscreens right now really quickly. Like I said, we have a buffet of sunscreens at our disposal here, and we have anything from you know, a very a lighter to more moisturizing to mattifying to a powder. There's a difference between chemical sunscreens and physical sunscreens. Physical sunscreens sit on the top of the surface of the skin, and they're effective the second you put them on. Those are going to be more like a powdered sunscreen. So we carry the Color Science sunscreens. They're powder. They never expire. They're heat tolerant, so they can be left in the sun. They can be left in the heat, and it doesn't deactivate the active ingredients like happens if you have a lotion-based sunscreen. So physical barriers, effective the second you put them on. They are heat tolerant. They lie on the surface of the skin, and they also are really great because they actually cool the skin a little bit. And that's really important for people with rosacea. It keeps their skin a couple degrees cooler. Moisture and water just beads off of them. And so they come in a couple different colors. They are great to carry in your golf bag, in your car, in your purse. Yep.
So easy. It comes with a brush. You just put it on.
And you saw that little plume? That means the brush is primed and ready to go. Another thing we talked about is people with darker skin, and we're going to bring Marisa in here a little bit because she's going to show us some things that she likes, is that sometimes people say it's just white. It just stays white on my skin. One of the things you can do with white sunscreen is, like, if I put this on the back of my hand before I apply it to my face, and then you just break it down a little bit, like this, it'll just kind of it'll mattify and reduce some of that white, so that even, but if you just rub it in, even me with my white skin, it just kind of helps it to absorb a little more quickly.
And you can put makeup on over this.
Right. Again, find the one that you like the best, and that, and it could be a scent, it could be the way it feels, it could be the color, a variety of things. So Marisa, we wanted to have 3 different skin tones in here, me being the whitey Friday. Jamie is Asian, and Marisa Mexican. And this is really pale for Marisa. She really is good about summer but she's really good about protecting her skin. And so the first one, when we got this one from Color Science, this no-show sunscreen, we're like, yeah, come on, really? So it's an SPF of 50. And it is white.
When you put it on, it is white.
I mean,
we'll let Jamie put it on first so you can kind of see it. So I'll put some on her hand. She'll kind of bring it up to the screen so you can kind of see how light it is.
And then as I put it on,
it just disappears. That's crazy.
And then on my skin, so my skin is darker than Jamie's, and I will put it on mine, and you can see as you rub it in, you can't see it. It goes on white, like you can see it on my skin, but once I start to rub it into my skin, you can't see it anymore. So
and
I really like this one because it's super light. It almost feels like you don't have any sunscreen on, and I get that a lot from people. Like, sunscreen is too heavy, and it's like, well, no, this one's really light. But
so even try it on. Let's try it just on my skin. So again, really pale, right? And you can still see even though I'm pale, it's just still white, but and I hardly feel it.
Yeah.
Super. I love it. What's another one you use, Marisa?
The other one I use is it's a Color Science. It's called Flex, and you guys may have seen this, but
it's kind of all over social media, right?
Yeah, it has been, because when you put it on, and I got to get my glasses on. I want to make sure it comes in different shades. And
they talk about, like, this one says for medium skin tones, and this one for fair skin tones. SPF of 50, and all Color Science products contain zinc and titanium. So they go on kind of white or gray almost, right?
Yeah, this is nice because it's fun. It's like a science experiment. So when you put it on, so I'll put it on my hand so you can see it, but when it goes on, it comes out white. So you'd be like, okay.
Let's show the different ones.
But
this is medium. So that hers was a little darker, and then this is me. Sorry, I got a little carried away there. And then this is the fair. So they all look, but isn't that funny? The fair looks the darkest. That's so funny.
Yeah, so you'll see that, like, this is the darker one, and I need the darker one for my skin tone. But when you put it on, you can see that it actually will go into a color. It color matches your face.
That's exactly right. That's why it says medium skin tones, because it color matches.
It almost, if you see, I can just put it all over, and it looks white going on. But when you rub it in, it will color match the skin tone that you have. And it's nice because a lot of people, like me, I will use this as a foundation as well. So I'm covered, and I also can cover any imperfections that I have in my skin by using this.
And she's protected.
This is a really nice one.
Would you reapply that during the day?
As with Shar, if I'm inside, I'm really bad. But if I am outside, I don't apply this. I actually have my powdered brush that I use on top of that. So I will use this because also it comes in a darker color. and it's fantastic because it doesn't break down in the sun.
So we talked a little bit about with the powder how it's a physical coverage and it makes, sweat and water just kind of bead up. But the one thing you need to be aware of is not all sunscreens are waterproof or sweatproof.
Mm-hmm.
It must say that on the packaging or on the sunscreen itself.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't say it's waterproof and sweatproof, then you can't count on it being so. So if you are somebody who is these Elta MD sunscreens, like this daily one, these are really great. They often are all that people wear for moisturizer during the day. They feel moisturized enough, have hyaluronic acid in them. They're an SPF of 40. One of them's a 42 and one's a 50. Elta MD does that because they think people will remember the number over the name. So that's why the numbers are all kind of different. But if you're going to be out doing something, mowing the lawn, running, exercising, in water, you need to have a different sunscreen on during that time that is water and sweat resistant. So,
and being outside, you'd want the SPF 50, right?
If you're out for long periods of time, right.
Now, what about our patients that have sensitive skin and are prone to breakouts?
That's a great question.
Like that.
Yeah, that is one of the barriers people talk about is sunscreen makes me break out, or sunscreen, makes me really red. Some of the liquid lotion like sunscreens, what they have to have a chemical reaction in order to provide that protection, and that reaction is a heat-based reaction. So sometimes people who have really sensitive skin react in a poor way to traditional lotion sunscreens. That's where a powder comes in. It can be a little bit better. But Elta MD also has a wonderful one, and they've named it Clear, and it comes in both a tinted and a traditional white. What makes this a little different is it has an ingredient in it called niacinamide, and that's a nice anti-inflammatory. So that helps reduce the inflammatory histamine reaction that some sunscreens cause. Also, niacinamide is an ingredient that we use to treat people with acne. So again, an anti-inflammatory and calms. So that's what makes it more easily tolerated by people who have more sensitive skin or acneic prone skin.
And you can see on these they have it comes in either clear in the white, or it has a little bit of a color to it that is really nice to be able to use if you want a little bit of a color.
And then there are some sunscreens also, sometimes people feel a little oily and greasy with sunscreens. So there are a few sunscreens that we have also that help that. One of them is this Elements. It has a very light tint to it. Again, an Elta MD product. It's an SPF of 50. This one is water and sweat resistant, so it's a great one for people to wear when they want a little bit of coverage, but also the water and the sweat protection. But this one is oil free, and that's what makes people really like it, that have kind of an oily skin or sweat a little bit more generously. The other one is
we also have a image matte that is also perfect for
Yep.
people that don't want that heavy oily. If they have oily skin, that's a good product to use as well. We have so many sunscreens that will fit just about everybody's skin type, skin tone, heavy, not heavy. So,
and again, the secret is finding the one you will wear, because it doesn't do any good sitting on your counter or left in the box.
Ask, what's the best product? And I said, if you're only going to get one product, you need to make it to be a sunscreen. I don't care what else you get, but a sunscreen is.
And there's no best sunscreen either. The best sunscreen is the one you'll wear. And we hope that you'll wear the one with zinc because it's going to be the most protective. And all of ours contain zinc.
And we do have some samples available if you want to try them before you purchase them.
We definitely do. So, all right. Well, I'm going to step out. I'm going to let them finish. And if you guys have any questions, any one of us can talk to you about sunscreen. And like Jamie said, we have testers. You can come in and try some and see which one is best for your skin.
Thank you, Marisa.
All right. So if you enjoyed this video, please like the video, share with your friends, subscribe to our channel. we wanted to get that out of the way. But like we said, May is Melanoma Awareness Month. Please schedule your skin check. We don't do those here, but please schedule with your dermatologist, please. And if you want to, you can leave in the comments that you've got that scheduled. And you will enter you into a raffle for a free sunscreen. Yeah. Okay.
Well, we hope that you learned a lot and decide to protect the largest organ and the most important organ. And we hope to hear from you soon.
And we can help you choose a sunscreen. Jenna at the front desk is amazing. She knows the products really well. Marisa knows the products very well. So if one of us isn't available, you can ask them any questions. They know all the answers. So, all right. Have a great week.